Good morning and welcome to week 4 of the Summer Stitch Sampler Knit Along. My name is Holly from At Yarn's Length, and today I'm going to show you how to knit the Plaited Basket Stitch. I've also seen this stitch called, the Wicker Stitch, which I think is actually a really good name for it. I'm working with a small swatch of 24 stitches if you want to try this beforehand. I'm using Caron Simply Soft in Off-White and Country Blue, and I've just worked a couple repeats as well as the first 3 rows of stockinette stitch indicated in the beginning of the pattern. If you're coming here to check out the stitch and you're not part of our knit along, you're welcome to check that out in the link below, but otherwise you can just adapt this to fit your needs based on whatever project it is you're working on. So this is a pattern that starts on the wrong side, which is why I've asked you to work 3 rows of stockinette stitch to begin with. So after we do 3, we're going to flip over, and this will actually be our starting side. One thing I did want to mention is this is a very dense stitch. So as you're working, you may notice your sides, where you've got your edge stitches, are a little more movable and pliable than the middle. If you are having trouble with puckering, you can go up a needle size, even if it's just for those stitches, and then use your regular needle size on the ends to keep your gauge correct. But that'll be something that you kind of have to play around with and see what works for you. Okay, so let's get started. Oh, goodness. I always complain about these needles. I never change them. Okay, sorry, the join is just a big old step up right there, as you can see, and so the stitches tend to get stuck. So, okay, so row 1, you're working with color A, and that is the Country Blue. You can carry the colors up the side. You don't need to change them as you go. Sorry, you don't need to like snip them and weave them in as you go. You do need to change them. So for row 1, which is in color A, which is my Country Blue, I'm gonna purl 6. And these are just my edge stitches. 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay, so I've got 6 there, edge stitches. The actual pattern goes over 3 stitches. So we're going to slip 1 with the yarn in front and purl 2. So it says with yarn in front we're purling, so actually we already have our yarn in front. So we're going to slip 1, whoops, and we're going to purl 2. You'll notice the one I slipped is a different color. With the exception of the first time you work the 4 rows, that will always be the case. The first time you will only have other blues to slip. So as you see here, the pattern emerges, but it's all in one color, so it's a little harder to see. So you could work this in one color, especially a lighter color, and it would be fine. You could still see the detail there. Ooh, this guy. Giving me some trouble today. So all the way across until you get to those end stitches again for the edge, you are going to slip 1, purl 2, slip 1, purl 2, slip 1, purl 2, slip 1, and purl 2. And we're going to end with a purl 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so we turn it over. Not much of anything going on here. We've just got some white stitches poking up. So row 2, which is also in color A, because we're going to go down and back in each color so that we can just run our stitches or run our colors up the side. So we're going to knit 5. And these are just our edge stitches. Okay, and the instructions for what you actually do with the stitches on row 2 are a little wordy. So I'm going to walk you through that part, which is the part that's potentially confusing. So what you're going to do, you're going to drop the next stitch. It's always going to be, again with the exception of that first time, it's always going to be a different color because we are looking for that alternating left and right. So you're going to drop it to the front. If you are afraid of losing this stitch, you can put a stitch marker on it, you can use a cable needle, or you can even just hold on to it as you work or pin it down. So drop that knit 2, and then pick it up. It's easier if you pick it up with the left and slip it onto the right, okay? So let's do that again. We're gonna drop the stitch to the front, pin it down if you're worried about it getting away, knit 2, pick it up with this needle, and then place it on that needle. So essentially what we're doing is slipping it, but we want to slip it 2 spaces down from where it originated so that we get the back and forth weave. Okay. And so if you do find that you slipped it and it has fallen through and created a run in your fabric, oh goodness, I feel like this would be a challenging knit to have that happen on. I don't know that I could run down and fix that. So I would say hold on to them tight because it's dense. They tend not to just unravel like you may normally find a stitch would do, but that doesn't mean you can't lose one. So that could be a little bit devastating. There we go. And so I know that I'm done. I don't even have to look and see that there's an end K4 because there are no more white stitches for me to drop to the front. So I know I just knit all these. Okay. So now we've got some white slanting to the left. Now we're on the back side, so we're going to be, since it's wrong side, we're on our row 3 because this did start on the wrong side, and we're going to change colors. So I'm just going to drop the blue, pick up the white from down here, and there will be a little bit of a carry. You'll pick that up when we work our border, but if it's something that really bothers you, you can snip and change every time. So, all right, so for this side, we're going to start with a purl 3. And same thing with this one, it is just a setup row. So, whoops, sorry. I am a combination knitter, so I'm used to wrapping. I guess I wrap clockwise, but I know that most people don't. So I do try to accommodate you guys in the videos for the majority of knitters, but sometimes I slip and make mistakes. So I've purled 3. These are my edge stitches again. So it's purl 2 and then you're going to slip 1. So purl 2, and this can get a little fiddly. This is the stitch from this side that has been slipped and moved over to. So sometimes those are a little tight. So I've done my purl 3 and now I'm starting the pattern. Purl 2 and slip 1 with yarn in front is what it says. Your yarn's already in the front. So nothing special needs to be done there. So again, these guys can be a little tight to manage. Ooh. Purl 2, slip 1. This is a fiddly stitch overall. The next row is a particularly fiddly row. And so I'm going to walk you through the whole pattern this week. Just because there's some room for misunderstanding there. Oops. I don't know if you guys can hear them, but we had a lot of birds out this morning. Okay, so we're going to finish up with a purl 2, slip 1, and we've got 6 stitches left. We're just going to purl down this side. So you will see the sides. We're working in stockinette for the edge stitches that we're going to pick up later, and those actually create, I think it's a pretty alternating pattern there as well. And I think it kind of offsets this a little better. You know, it creates some contrast. You can see they're the same colors, but it really makes these look like they're zigzagging. So your last row, which is row 4, you can be slipping these first stitches if you want, since we are going to pick up the edges later. That is something you can try to make them a little cleaner, but doesn't have to be done. Okay, so I've done my edge stitches. What I'm going to do is I'm going to slip 2. It says with yarn in back, but again, because we're knitting, the yarn is always in the back. Slip, slip, oops, sorry, I slipped my continent away. Slip, slip. Slip 2, drop the next color. So it's always going to be that color that you were working with before. It's never going to be a white stitch and a white row that you need to drop for this, okay? So you can drop that blue stitch to the front. Again, you can hold on to this guy if you're worried about losing him, okay? You are going to take those 2 stitches that you just slipped and put them back on the left-hand needle, and then bring this guy over. So that's how we're creating this particular slant, okay? And then you're going to knit them. So this is basically just a shuffling around row, okay? So slip, slip, drop that guy, slip these 2 back, pick them up, and now knit them. Okay. Again, slip, slip, drop the blue. If you're worried about him getting away, pinch him, slip it back, pick up the blue, and then knit those 2 stitches. Okay, once I get going, what I like to do is this. I don't know if that is more or less confusing for folks. That might look simpler for some of you, but for some it might just be daunting. So what I do is I pick up all 3 stitches, and then from the back I just scoop these guys. Well, I tried to, there we go. From the back I just scoop these 2, and then that way when I remove this needle, they're already where they need to be, and I can knit them. So if that works easier for you and there's less of a risk of you dropping the blue that way, I say go for it. You'll finish up this section with the knit 5. And then you're done. This particular section of the blanket does end with 3 more rows of stockinette, and that's so you end up with a right row for next week when you start the following week. So you've got right side, right side for your 3 stockinette rows in the beginning. The pattern itself is wrong side, right side, right side, and then you do wrong, right, wrong again for your 3 finishing rows. If you have any questions about the pattern or our summer stitch sampler knit along, I am going to put links to both of those in the comments, as well as links to the Facebook group. There are lots of active knitters there who are working week by week, who've been able to keep up and are answering questions for each other and really helping each other out. We've got a couple folks who are modifying their patterns, and everyone's using different yarns, so it's interesting to see how it turns out. So it's a great place to be. I'll put a link for that too. Otherwise, I look forward to seeing you next week. If you have any questions, please be in touch.